Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us. My name is Alex, and on behalf of Copper State Credit Union, we are so happy to have you for our virtual event on how to pay off debt. Welcome. Some items to review before we get started. Our session today is scheduled to last 30 minutes. Please take a moment to find your Zoom toolbar, likely at the bottom of your screen. We want you to be able to participate as much as possible during our session today, so we want everyone to be aware of the features available to you. Q&A. Please type your questions for the speaker here. Our speaker will address as many of the on-topic questions as possible during our time. You may also receive a typed response from one of our team members. If we need to send you any links during the session, you'll find these in chat. The recording of today's event will be sent out to you via email and will also be located on our website. Now, the last thing I want to show you before I turn it over to Christina is the polling feature. You should see a poll popping up here momentarily. If you could please respond so that we know a little bit more about our audience today. Thank you. Now, I'm excited to introduce our speaker, Christina Kredit. Christina is Copper State Credit Union's Financial Wellness Program Manager. She's been with the credit union for 3.5 years and loves her current position. Christina has lived in the Phoenix area for 9 years since moving from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She loves listening to audiobooks and enjoys camping with her friends and family. Financial fun fact about her, she spent more money on her prom dress than she did her wedding dress. Christina, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, Alex, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm glad you felt you needed to share that with our audience today. So thank you, everyone, for joining us in our virtual event. We really hope to continue offering these live virtual events with you monthly, and we hope that you continue to join us. For those of you who are new here, I want to introduce you to our credit union. We are a local Arizona credit union. We were built from the merger of two equally thriving credit unions back in 2019. So it was Bear Valley Credit Union and Canyon State Credit Union. We came together to become stronger together, and our membership with Copper State Credit Union, with all of its benefits, is now open to most Arizona residents. So if you live, work, or worship in any of the following counties, Maricopa, Gila, Navajo, Pima, Pinal, or Yavapai, you are eligible for membership with Copper State Credit Union. We currently have 8 branch locations and over 40,000 members who trust us to do their banking. We are making financial wellness a priority. You can see that our values are family, empowerment, discovery, excitement. We care about our members and empowering you to achieve financial wellness. That's one of the reasons why I am here today. So that's our credit union, and I want to start with our goal today. So our goal today is that you walk away with 2 different strategies for paying off debt, whether you have one debt, whether you have multiple. And these are 2 very specific strategies that you can implement at home on your own for free. And before we start talking about those, there's a secret to success. And I know that that sounds like such a gimmick, but really, you have to know this in order to be successful with your debt payoff strategy. So here it is. The secret to debt payoff success is stop creating new debt. Now, I know that that is a little bit easier said than done. We see it all the time. What happens is you're trying to pay off your current debt, but in so doing, you're creating new debt somewhere else or on the same debt. And it leads to this cycle that I'm going to share with you. Somebody is saying, you know, I'm desperate to get this debt paid off. And maybe they get a check in the mail, or they get their, you know, their payroll comes in. And they say, okay, I'm going to pay way above the minimum payment on this debt. I'm going to pay several $100s extra, and I'm really going to get ahead of it this month. This is when it's going to change. And they put every spare penny they have onto that debt. Well, what happens, and this can be weeks later, this can be months later, but eventually, because it's so, you know, such a big task that's created, is what happens is they don't have enough cash left for necessities. And what happens if you don't have enough cash? You have to then have a new loan, or put it on a different loan, or pay for those necessities with another loan or debt. We see this all the time. If you want to be successful in paying off a $3,000 credit card debt, for example, you must be able to sustain daily, monthly, yearly expenses without creating more debt on another credit card or anywhere else. So now that I've kind of explained this, and yes, I know it is a lot easier said than done, but I want to give you a couple of action steps. How do you get out of this cycle, this payoff attempt cycle? Well, you want to make sure you've created a budget. And if you do not have a budget already, we have some resources to share with you. Last month's virtual event was Easy and Empowered Budgeting in 4 Simple Steps. We actually took an hour and we went through a comprehensive guide on how to set up a personal or family budget for yourself. So that would be a great place to start, is with that recording and transcript. Now, the important thing about creating a budget is specifically determining this number that I am going to call our debt-directed dollars. And I bet you that I definitely stumble over that at some point during our event today, because it's a tongue twister. But our debt-directed dollars, I have a definition here that I want to share. It's how much money you can put towards new debt each month, towards your debt, not new debt, the debt you already have, while still taking care of your necessities, your basic savings, spending. You know, you can cover groceries, you can take care of all those bills that you need in order to live day to day, week to week, month to month. And whatever that number is, that debt-directed dollars, you'll figure that out by creating a budget. And we're going to refer to that number, your debt-directed dollars number, several times as we go through today, talking about our strategies, because that's the number you have to start with in order to implement these strategies. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And don't panic if you don't have a budget at all. Like I mentioned briefly, we do have some resources to share. I mentioned the virtual event from last month. Alex, I believe there are some links to you in the chat. And if you want to take a look at those, we've got the transcript and the video from our last event. We also have a downloadable budgeting spreadsheet, and it's in Excel, but don't let that scare you. We've tried to make it really easy where you can just plug in your numbers and it does all the calculations for you already. So I encourage you to check that out, download it. All of these resources are free. Like I said, we care about our member families, we care about your financial wellness and you feeling empowered to meet your financial goals, so these are completely free. The last one I want to talk about is our ebook on how to create a monthly budget that works. This ebook is a very comprehensive guide, several chapters that will give you insight on how to create that budget. So if that's where you need to start, awesome. It's a great first step, but don't sign off. That doesn't mean that this information won't be helpful for you at all. It will. You'll get valuable knowledge hopefully today, and once you know that debt-directed dollars number, you'll be able to implement one of our strategies. So now for the actual strategies. The first one that I'm going to share with you today is called the fixed payment method. Now that you know the secret to debt payoff, stop creating new debt, we can talk about how we are going to pay off the debt. So this strategy is pretty easy to explain, it's pretty easy to understand, pretty easy to implement, which is awesome. So if you were someone who came on and you're like, man, I don't want some complicated thing, I just want like a simple way to make a little bit faster progress on my debt, this strategy might be for you. But of course, hang around, hear about both of them, and then you can make your decision from there. So in order to understand the fixed payment method strategy, first we need to talk about what a minimum payment is. And maybe you're very familiar with that. If not, I'm just going to go through a little quick summary. A minimum payment is something that's determined by the lender or whoever has your loan. So if it's a credit card, the credit card company is the one determining your minimum payment. And the way it's calculated is by a percentage of your balance. And they have to include like the fees and stuff in there as well. It's not an exact science, but just knowing that that minimum payment is based on a percentage of your outstanding balance. So that minimum payment, if you're not adding any debt to that, it's going to change a little bit from month to month. And kind of looking at fixed payment as the other option. So instead of paying the minimum payment due, when you get that statement in the mail and it says minimum payment due, instead of paying that amount, the other option strategy I'm going to offer to you is to do a fixed payment. You get to determine what this fixed payment is, which is really nice. It puts you in control of the situation. As I said, the minimum payment from the lender is going to change monthly because it's a percentage, whereas the fixed payment, due to its name, is the same amount every month. So again, easier to remember, easier to budget for, in my opinion, because it's just the same dollar amount every month. And to kind of compare payoff times and interest between these two, the minimum payment is going to lead to a longer payoff time. Yes, it's convenient to be able to just, make that smaller payment on, I remember when I got my first credit card and I went out and, went shopping or something, I don't remember, and I put $600 or so on the credit card, and I got the bill, and I remember being surprised because I thought I would have to pay the entire $600, and I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that I only had to pay $38 or whatever it was. And I was excited. I thought, wow, this is a great deal. I'm going to do this every month. But the reality is, if I were to do the minimum payment only, it's going to have longer payoff times. And if you do a fixed payment, it's going to decrease that payoff time significantly. We're going to talk about an example of this in just a moment. But when it comes to interest, it's kind of the same situation. That they tell you, and you pay only that every month, you're going to end up paying the maximum amount of interest. On the fixed payment method, it's going to decrease the interest that you're paying pretty significantly. So that's a nice benefit. But really, to understand the fixed payment method, it's helpful to look at an example. And before I share any numbers and comparisons with you, I do have a question. I'm going to put up another poll here right now. And let's see. Okay, if this poll pops up for you, I would love for you to share your guess. So $3,000 balance on a credit card. Let's say that the interest rate or the annual percentage rate they're paying is about 18%. How long do you think it would take this individual to pay off their credit card balance if they paid minimum payments only? So I see a few guesses coming in. Go ahead and take a moment to share in the poll if you have a guess. Well, we don't have anyone who said 1 year. My options, for those of you that are just calling in via phone, my options were 1 year, 4 years, 14 years, and 18 years. All right, thank you for sharing. So let's take a look. For a minimum payment, $3,000 balance, without adding any more to that balance, and having an 18% APR, here's what the minimum payment would look like. And I just did an example month of June, like starting in June as the first month. So in June, on that type of balance, approximately the minimum payment is going to be about $75. The percentage usually runs about 2 to 2.5% of the balance, just for your reference. But so this is what it would look like. And notice how each month it decreases by a little bit. Why do you think that is? Well, because your balance is decreasing a little bit each month. So as the balance decreases a little bit, you pay a little bit less in the minimum because it's calculated by a percentage. So if you follow this schedule, it would take, for those of you that said 18 years, you are correct. It would take 18 years to pay off this credit card. Just that $3,000 balance. If you never spent another penny on that credit card, it would take 18 years. And the interest you would pay is almost $4,000 on top of the balance of the money you actually borrowed from them. So here's an illustration of what a fixed payment will do for you. I kept the minimum payment from June, and I just said, you know what? Why don't we just pay $75 a month? Let's fix that payment in place. If I could afford $75 in June, when that was the minimum, then I can afford $75 in July and August and September. And if I do that and we keep that up over the course of the loan payment, look at the decrease in payoff time and in interest paid. Huge, right? So we've cut 13 years off of the payoff time and over $2,000 just by keeping your payment at a fixed number each month instead of paying what they say the minimum is. I love this tip. It's so easy to implement, and that's one of the reasons why I really like it. It's not something you have to do a bunch of math for. It's pretty straightforward. So action steps for this: if you like the idea of doing a fixed payment method, know that debt-directed dollars number, okay? It's important to have a budget and figure out how much you can put towards all your debt so that you don't go over that number. If you go over that number, you're not going to have enough money left for groceries and gasoline and all the things you need every month, and you'll go into more debt, remember, like we talked about at the beginning. So that debt-directed dollars number is key here. Gather all of your loan statements, grab our free debt deletion worksheet, and it will actually walk you through the fixed payment method that I just talked about, and it'll show you what to do for your own personal debt situation. You'll get that worksheet for free. It's available as a download when you take our survey. Well, you don't have to take the survey. It's on the follow-up page after our webinar. The other tip or sort of action step for this is to make your payments automatic if you can. And what I mean by that is go to your credit card website or your loan provider's website, set up automatic payments. Hint, set it up on the day you get paid or the day your money is coming into your household so that that payment's made immediately and you don't have time to, spend it on other stuff. So if you can make it automatic, if your budget can handle that, it's a great way to kind of forget about it a little bit and just let that fixed payment method do its magical work. Okay, I think that's it. We actually have two calculators to share. We have these available for you. One of them is for a revolving loan, like a credit card, and it's a payoff calculator. It allows you to play with different numbers and see how long it'll take you on a visual graph. Alex is going to share that via chat with you, so you can check that out. We also have a term loan payoff. So like if you want to pay off your car and it's, 5 more years, you can calculate a difference in the payment and how that will affect your payoff time for a term loan. So those links will be in chat as well. Check those out. It's a nice visual representation. I wish I could show you right now, but we are keeping this virtual event short today at 30 minutes, so I'm not going to show you those right now. Instead, I'm going to move on to our debt payoff strategy number 2, another very exciting option. It's called the roll-up payment method. Here's how it works. Basic definition. Every time a debt is paid off, you roll up that monthly payment to the next debt. So your debt-directed dollars, again, are going to be super important because you're utilizing every single penny of those. Let's talk about this in a little more detail because this one's a little bit more complex, but don't worry, it's definitely doable. It's worth it. So what you would do for the roll-up payment method is you would gather all your statements, make a list of all your debts, just like you would for the other one, but you're going to choose what's called a focused debt. And you can either choose the lowest balance or the highest interest. That's personal preference. If you choose the lowest balance as your first focus debt, you're going to see progress a lot faster. So if you're someone that needs to see your progress in order to stay motivated, you want to go with the lowest balance first. If you're more of a mathematical, logical thinker, you might want to start with the highest interest loan first because you are going to save a little bit more by putting more of your cash on the higher interest loans first. But regardless, no matter what you choose, you're still going to make a huge impact on your debt load, no matter what you choose as your focus debt. So you've picked your focus debt from all the ones you have, and you're going to pay the minimum on every single debt other than the focus debt. So if I have 5 debts, I'm paying the minimum payment only on 4 of those debts, and the 5th one, I'm going to put the rest of my debt-directed dollars onto that 5th one. Let's look at an example. Here's Jason. He calculated his debt-directed dollars available as $500 a month. That's what he has available to put towards every single debt that he has. So he decides to go with the lowest balance as his first focus debt. And this little chart on the side shows you all of the debts that Jason has. So he decides his first focus debt is going to be his mom because that's the lowest balance, and he wants to see his progress go kind of quickly. So what he will do is add up the minimum payments for the other 4 debts. So take a look over here at the minimum payment column on his debt chart, and if you add up those 4 amounts, it's $450. So he has to make those minimums, right? He's got to make those minimum payments. But what we can do is some simple math, take that total debt-directed dollars number that he has available for debt, subtract the monthly minimum for the other 4, and then what is left, that $50, go towards his focus debt or his mom until it's paid off. Good news for Jason. That's only going to take 2 months, all right? So take a look at this little graph. Let's say he started this month in November. He's going to pay his mom $50 a month. She's going to be paid off in 2 months, and the rest of those loans are just getting a minimum payment. Now, once that happens, once that first one is paid off, you're going to really start to see some interesting things happen. And I cropped this to just show you the first 3 columns because it can be kind of overwhelming. But what happens after mom is paid off is we are going to roll up that $50 that was going towards mom, and we're going to move it over to the dentist loan or his next focus debt. You can see that he was making the minimum on the dentist loan, which was $75. He adds the $50 that was going to mom that he doesn't have to do anymore because it's paid off, and now he's putting $125 towards the dentist loan. Few more months go by, then that one's paid off. And guess what happens next? You roll up that entire $125 over to the third focus debt. So now, Macy's, we've been paying the minimum all these months, and now we're adding that roll up from mom and the dentist, so $125 total in addition to the minimum. Macy's is getting $175 a month. So you can see how this process it kind of snowballs, gets bigger and bigger, that amount you're able to put towards each debt, which makes it go a lot faster. If Jason had just paid the minimums on everything, it would have taken him 4 or 5 years to pay off all of these. But with this method, he is able to shave off a ton of time. 3 of the debts are paid off in the first year. So all 3, mom, dentist, and Macy's, completely done in 1 year. And the last 2, his car and his computer loan, only take 6 more months. And they're the biggest ones. But they go so fast because he's putting so much of his debt-directable dollars onto those last 2. He's putting $450 a month or $500. That's a lot of money. And that's why those last 2 debts go so fast. So it's a really, really encouraging strategy to use because you get to see the effect over time of rolling those payments up. And action steps for this one, again, know that debt-directed dollars number. If Jason had been putting $700 a month towards his loans and he didn't have that available, he would have been $200 short for everything else and be putting that on to new debt. That's why that's so important. I know I've said that a million times. I'm a broken record on debt-directed dollars. But you are still going to gather all your recent statements for those loans. Grab your free debt deletion worksheet. That should be on your screen somewhere right now, along with the survey. And if you don't catch it after our event, it will be emailed to you as well. Also, you can make these payments automatic. That will help you if that fits within your budget and your goals. The last little tool I want to share is called PowerPay. And Alex, if you can send that link, that would be awesome. So Utah State University set this up. And you know that calendar that I showed on the previous slide that had like the months and the debts? Well, if you plug all your information in there, it will show you how quickly you'll be able to pay off. So our debt deletion worksheet really helps you come up with a plan and walks you through step by step. But once it's all done, you can plug it into PowerPay and it will give you a really nice calendar to show you what kind of progress you're going to make. So I've brought us right up to the limit here, but let's just ask a funny question. Which one of these is better? What do you guys think? What's better? I guess I could throw you a poll, but really, both. They're both better. If you're trying to pay off debt, anything you do, either one of these are going to make progress, and they're going to make faster progress than those minimum payments, even the tiniest change. So choose whatever fits you best, and I hope one of these methods really spoke to you, and I hope you're empowered to try it. If you have any questions, I hope you've been sending them over via the Zoom toolbar. If not, go ahead and take a moment now to send over any questions you have for me. I am going to sit around for a few minutes and wait. I'm going to see if any questions come through. So I will be here. If you do not have any questions or you don't want to stick around to hear other people's questions, you can go ahead and take off. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday. And please make sure to download that debt deletion worksheet and take the survey. The survey data is great for us. It helps me know what you guys think and help to improve things for next time. So if you're about to sign off, thanks so much for joining us. Otherwise, feel free to type in some questions to the Q&A box, and I will be happy to answer them as best I can. We'll hang around here for about 5 minutes for anyone who has questions. All right, we've got a question, and if you have any questions, you can continue to type those in. I'll be hanging out for a couple minutes here, but someone asked, where do you find the debt deletion worksheet? And the answer is, it's going to be emailed to you very shortly, but when you signed into the Zoom meeting today, there was a browser page, and that page should have automatically converted to the page with the survey and the debt deletion worksheet. If you don't find that, don't worry, it will be emailed to you in probably about a half an hour or so. You should have that to your email inbox. It'll go to the email that you used when you signed up for the event today. Hope that answers your question. If anyone else has questions, feel free to send them over. All right, it looks like that's all the questions there were for today. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.